Hey guys, so I'm going to run through a few details about what our action items are for the week. I'm pretty sure I sent them out in an email, so I'm not going to go over them completely again. But one of the big things that people have been consistently messing up, and it's not everybody, but it is quite a few of you, is format once again. I'm going to go through this, and this will be your last warning with this unless you are a new staff member. And by new staff member, I mean if I hired you today, you have an excuse. But if not, it's pretty simple. You have the handbook, and it is a step-by-step way of how to do it. And if you don't know or if you have questions, please ask me. I'm not going to get mad if you ask me. So here we have our CMS subject line. This is your temporary headline. For this, we need you to put the date that the article will be due. So, all of our articles are due on Saturdays at noon. So we're going to put 3/19 for this week. And you're going to put a little bit about what you are doing. So for this week, I am writing about the Everybody Knows Somebody 5K, as well as Whitney Wait the Words No BS campaign. That's the Nobody Shame campaign, by the way, if you didn't know that. So for just trying to figure out format here, I'm going to act as if it's a listicle. Actually, this will be news, so it can be a news listicle. And like we know, news is anything that has happened in the past 2 weeks or will happen in the future 2 weeks. And it doesn't have to just be what we consider news as, politics or attacks or just things like that. It can just be anything. So if a firefighter saves a kitten from a tree in your local neighborhood, you can write on that, and that's news. Or if Netflix came out with the Fuller House Season 2, which I cannot wait for, but it's next year. Things like that. That is news. It's not necessarily what you would consider a typical news piece. So since this is going to be a news piece, since it is happening this weekend, I'll classify it as news. As you know, standard, that's evergreen pieces. My article will not be a listicle, but I'm going to go through listicle format again because this is something a lot of people have been missing. Remember that you need to have a 50 to 150 word intro on all listicles. This is one thing I missed last week, and that is my fault. I'm still learning how to do it as well, the editing process. So bear with me and Mallory and Brittany and Becca, your other editors. Bear with us. We're still learning too. Be patient and ask questions. We want you to ask questions. So on your listicles, back to that, make sure that you put a 50 to 150 word intro about what you were talking about. So for example, Michaela wrote an article on Broadway, and we had to put in a 50 to 150 word intro about, I think I put something around how Broadway changes lives because of the stories that it has. Things such as that. Always, you got that down pat. Say I'm doing Everybody Knows Somebody 5K. It was a 5K. So this is my point. I don't know. You get the gist what I'm doing. It was fun. So when we go in here, we're going to add an image or a GIF we usually use Giphy.com just because it is a good source. I'm just going to grab a random image here. Go Wolfpack. If you're not a Wolfpack fan, as long as you're a Carolina fan, I'll like you. I ride the fence. Okay, long story. Make sure all your images are centered. Ignore my little rant about sports. And write a little piece about it. 5K races are not very long, but still hard. Or something that's funny. Say if we're doing a piece on school, think somebody did like the 5 kinds of people you meet at school. We'll do the sports fan. Then you can go in here and say whether it is Carolina versus NCSU. There is always a rivalry. Like in my house, for example, like I just use Carolina and NC State interchangeably, because my boyfriend, he goes to NC State, but I grew up a Carolina basketball fan, but I was also an NC State football fan. So if you're writing a sports piece, for example, and you want to talk about rivalries or how you can cheer for another team, things like that, just be creative. Use your own experiences. Your own experiences are the best. And I have seen, especially from Haley Walker's articles, from her using her own experiences in her own life, she has gotten the most reads consistently 3 weeks in a row, if I'm not mistaken. So make sure that all of your points are in header 2 format, and that will be golden. Just make sure it follows this format, and yeah, so we're going to move on to headline. I think we only had one mistake last week, and I'm pretty sure it was a typo because everything else was correct. But as you know, make sure that make sure that every word is capitalized, and with the subheadline, make sure that it is like a typical sentence and it also has punctuation at the end. This makes no sense, but as you know, the subheadline is like a teaser of what the article is about. We already have a cover photo here, because I pulled a random picture of me driving a tractor. So when you're getting a picture, make sure that if it's about people, make sure it has people. The pictures that have actual people instead of things often do better. But for example, like when I did my jar bar, let me find it, my jar bar article for this week. There it is. When I did my jar bar article for this week, I used a picture of the makeup. Since I was promoting a product, I used that image. However, like this picture that Keely posted, the 12 types of friends you make in college, of course it is her and her friends. And we'll do one more. Where was it? The Broadway. Great Broadway article. It's themed around what the article is about. So just make sure that you're doing things that are relative to what you're writing about, and don't just throw up a picture of a flower when you're talking about, I don't know. You know what I'm saying. Be real with it. So again, with your attributions, a lot of you have just been putting in the URL. Please don't do that, or we'll start sending it back. You don't tell somebody you got an article from http://facebook.com. You say, I got it from Facebook. So you take your attribution and you put where you got it from. If you got it from a person, you write where you got it from. And if it's not like anywhere else, you don't have to have attribution URL. But at least make sure you have this attribution, because if you don't have this, we're sending it back, okay? See. Meta, you guys know this. Tags, make sure you have at least 3 tags. The more tags that you get that are related to your article, the more readers you can get. Because if somebody searches the Odyssey database for one particular thing, say eating disorders, because this is related to eating disorders, or they type in 5K, things like that. It pulls out different articles and gives you an opportunity to, goodness gracious, it's an opportunity for you to get your article read by somebody who might not find it usually. I would classify this particular article as adventure, but if it is a listicle, for example, put the list. If you have questions about that, please ask us. I'll be sending out the name of your individual editor that you can go to and ask these questions to. Always, you can feel free to ask them to me, but we're all here to help you as well. So, preview, make sure that everything is in correct format. When you preview, always preview in mobile because that's where we get the most shares. Submission deadline, it'll be the Sunday after your deadline, so 3/20. Always hit publish as soon as possible just because. Social network brief, make sure it's a brief about your article. You can use these, the subject line that's underneath your headline on the other page. I think somebody just fell off their bed upstairs. Anyway, sorry guys. You can put that there, but make sure you do not put, hey, get me the most shares because this article gets me 20 bucks. Do not do that, ever. We will send it back in a heartbeat. It's not going to happen. But write a little bit about what the article is, and make sure you have 3 social shares. This is something we have been fighting you guys against, and I figured out that if I do them personally, they're going to come on my Facebook page, and I had a lot of articles. Shout out to Kieran. Sorry that when I created another Facebook share, the caption was, here's the new article that I wrote for the week. No, it was Kieran's. Anyway, I changed that real fast when I figured out what happened. So anyway, make sure that you have 3 Facebook shares. We do Facebook specifically because, excuse me, that is where you get your shares, and that's how you can get your money. You can do Twitter completely. You go for it. But make sure you do Facebook at least. I recommend doing the Monday, the Tuesday, and the Wednesday. Make 3 individuals for that. Because Liz doesn't always get to the articles on Monday, and she doesn't always get to them on Tuesday. Or maybe it's a little bit later on Tuesday, but they'll always be done by Wednesday at least. So that way you have the option to make sure your article gets seen. So when you're done with all of that and everything is correct, make sure you just hit submit for editing. It won't say resubmit here. So I will talk to you guys later, and if you have any questions, please ask me. Thanks.